Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Kaylee and firefighters, if you're seeing this at home. We are going to be focusing on a full body exercise today. So we're going to go through a full dynamic warm up for our lower half, and then we'll work our way at midsection, upper back, as well as shoulders, upper torso, and then we're going to go through some strength training stuff for the entire body. So at any point, you can always pause this recording and also just go through the exercise that we're going to be doing at your own leisure or time. But basically what we're going to do, the foundation or the format of this is that everything's going to go for about a minute. And of course, if you're on your own, you can always cut that time in half, but I'll start the timer. I'll let you know when we're doing that and just go the entire time. So if you don't see me moving the entire time, you should still be moving and until I say stop or start. So let's start off with our mobility factor first. So we're going to start in a down dog position. So we're going to try to work on our posterior chain. So our calves, our hamstrings, the flexibility of our even lower back, trying to hinge and trying to not let the back round out, but trying to create a foundation where you're making this basically a TP or a pyramid with your torso and of course your legs, so that you're making this angle break here. So you'll start by placing your fingertips onto the ground, trying to press, flex into the ground, pressing through the shoulders, and then trying to plant the heels onto the ground. So this might be a lot for some if you have your feet too close, but if you need to, you can walk your feet back and still try to drive your toes up towards the ceiling or towards your shin and driving your calves or your heels into the ground. You can also try flexing the quads, so that will get you more extension of the leg, and just going back and forth. You can also go into this heavily mechanism here, stretching out that calf, maybe shoot your hips off to the side, lead with your sit bones up towards the ceiling, pushing your butt back, and that'll get you more hamstrings. And you're basically trying to stay active within your musculature. So going back and forth, and I'll start the timer now for 1 minute. So you go, just do what feels great. So you're pushing through your calves, your heels towards to the ground, butt in the air, trying to spread your sit bones, drive your hamstrings backwards. Maybe you can lean over your shoulders or your shoulders over your wrists in order to work on that extensibility of your tissues around the forearm and your wrist joints. Stretch that out. Stick your hips out. So posterior, wrist stretch, back and forth from that. Yeah, good, Kaylee. So working, once again, just to reiterate, it's the posterior chain, hamstrings, calves, wrists. Very good. So that was 1 minute. And that's pretty much how we're going to go through this entire workout. So some type of mobility factor and then the strengthening factor to complement it, or we'll come back to that later. So you feel like, Kaylee? Feel good?
Yeah.
Good. Woo. Now so from there, from this position, we're going to then go into, I think we did this in the first week, into a spider push-up. So you're going to have your foot in between your hands, and you're going to have the knee flare out to the side. So you're straddling your foot, and your knee should be out to the side. So this is one angle. So in this, plane, you're going to put your, foot in between the hands, keeping the back leg straight, and you're trying to smell your foot. When you smell your foot and you come back up, you're trying to push the nice edge of your foot down to the ground so you feel that activation of that lateral portion of your hip, and you're going back and forth. To add more resistance, you can probably lessen up how much you actually push through the arms and try to push more through the leg. So another angle is from the side here. I'm keeping the back leg straight, and I'm just going back and forth, back and forth. And you're staying on the same side. I'm starting the timer now. And remember, you're trying to create some tension in the hips. So you're trying to push to the nice edge of the foot, going back and forth. If you lock out that back, you get more out of the quad, more out of the hip flexor, and you're just focusing, for those that are more mindful of the breathing, you can inhale down, exhale up. So activation of that parasympathetic system. So you feel as though your tissues are tight. That's actually one way of kind of relaxing naturally through this range of motion. The back and forth.
Do we switch sides?
Nope, we're going to stay on the same. Staying on the same side. I just switched. Good. And you're pushing through that leg. You can go through it. So this is some active dynamic stretching that we should be able to go through our bouts of exercise. So right now we're going for time. Go ahead and switch, Kaylee. But you can also change your own, you can set your own repetitions. So for those that really don't stretch at all, you can do like 10, 20, 30, or until you feel loose. So I think there's a point where you get that point where it's like, okay, I'm not going to receive or achieve more of the mobility I'm trying to work for. So you just got to do what feels right, and you just got to be consistent and persistent with stretching and working towards new range of motion.
These get hard.
So yeah, you can, depending on how much resistance you add into it, you can actually contract a little bit harder. You can activate the musculature a little bit more. And that's the other thing too. You don't need a large amount of weight in order to get through your exercise. I think that's a misconception for a lot of people. But for those that have this established set of musculature already, this calisthenics can be a way of maintaining, if not even building more. So it's just all based off the volume and how you activate your musculature and what you think about when doing it. So you can be done on that one. Very good. So now let's go into like another quad. So that was supposed to be like the posterior lateral portion. A lot of people are, from what I see in our clinic, is that a lot of people are restricted in this posterior lateral portion. So for sitting for long periods of time or not having the gluteal strength. There's also a direct correlation with some studies that show that can lead to lower back discomfort, pain, or non-specific pain. So the mobility as well as the strengthening aspect is something of importance. So keeping that in mind. So now I want to focus on another aspect of our hip, which is our quad and hip flexor again. So what you'll do is you're going to, I guess you can start in a 90-90 position. So my torso is nice and upright. It's right on top of this back leg. And then my front leg is at 90 degrees as well. So the knee is right on top of the ankle. So with here, I'm going to slightly raise about an inch off the ground. So I'm squeezing my stomach, squeezing my glutes, but you can't see it, but I'm trying to pull my leg through the ground. And I'm trying to rotate my hips forward. So when I do this, and then while I'm trying to keep it to the ground, I should feel this activation of the quad and the hip flexor. And if you want more, you can raise the arm up and lean to the side. So in this case, my left knee is in front. So I'm going to raise the arms up and lean over to the left side if you want more activation. So I'm trying to contract into the ground, squeezing my stomach, squeezing my glutes. I'm trying to be in this upright position. And then once you get kind of tired, you come out of it. And then you're going back into it and trying to contract to that ground again. And your back knee is always hovering. So we'll go for 1 minute, back and forth, starting now. Kaylee, do you feel that when you try to bring your foot through the ground?
Yeah. When you the tightening my glutes and pressing my hips forward is when I really.
Right. So you're trying to, so you get down a little bit lower, trying to maybe you can inch your foot forward a little bit because I see you arch a little bit. So maybe you can,
My legs are tired.
So that's the thing. So for those that are getting tired, you just step out of it or, stand all the way up and then come back down into it. So you're hovering a tad bit, contracting in the ground. And then once you get tired, you can stand all the way up. Yep. And then when you're ready, you go right back into it. But you got to make sure you get back into that position every single time where you're nice and stacked on your joints, activating that musculature, contract. And then I guess the relaxation part is when you're standing back up. Try not to let the hips deviate. Try to keep everything engaged. All right, and you can go ahead and now we can switch to the other side. You felt that the entire time, Kaylee?
Yeah, that was a good one. That's challenging.
Yeah, you have some pretty good body awareness. So for those that are trying to establish body control and knowing where you are in space, then it's a matter of trying to get your joints to be stacked on top of each other, trying to work towards what you consider a good posture, activating that musculature in that position, and then trying to maintain that position when you contract and relax, at least within this specific exercise.
I feel it a lot.
Yeah, so we also may have muscular imbalances. So you may notice that your right side versus your left side might be tighter or looser than the other, or maybe potentially weaker with some of these exercises that we're doing. But it's good to kind of do these unilateral, one-sided movements because you can really observe those differences if they do exist. So you're contracting, relaxing. And Kaylee, that's good that you have your leg back more, but remember, if you're trying to, you can get a little bit more if you drive your, so like right on top and then try to engage and then trying to drive the leg through the ground while doing that. Yep, and then contract. So there is, I mean, that's the other thing too, is that your body moves at so many different angles. You can definitely change your position and get more out of the hip or the quad or whatever it is that we're stretching. So that was 1 minute. We can end on that one. Kaylee, you felt that one? That was good?
Yeah, nice.
All right, so now we're going to try to go into, so we kind of addressed the front portion, the outside portion. We kind of did the hamstring with the down dog. Most should have felt that. But the other thing of importance is now this inner portion, this adductor component. So what you'll do is you're going to have your feet like at a 45-degree angle, and your feet are going to be definitely wider than that of the hip. But when you go down, I want you to try to, you're going to go into like this standing split. So I like to use my forearms to rest on my leg, and the other leg, I'm trying to contract into the ground. So I'm feeling this in the inner portion. So if you're not feeling that, you can walk into your way a little bit farther and get into a wider stance. Trying to push your knee out, the one that is bent, and then you're trying to contract the other one into the floor. So since my left foot is in front right now, I'm going to try to rotate my body towards the left as well. Maybe that can open up a little bit more of the hip, and then I'm going to go up and then over to the other side, trying to contract into that inner portion of the thigh again. Remember, you're trying to keep your joints stacked. So for those, some of you may have your knee going way over past the toes, or going your knee collapsing in. Just get to a position where you position your body, you try to work in within that space. Your body will, kind of correct itself, or you should be able to get into a better position. Kaylee, do you feel that in the inner portion of the thigh?
Oh, yeah.
You're contract into the inner portion and then relax. So maybe you can hold for about 3 seconds. Move over to the other side. And once again, you're trying to work on those adductors. So we're not passive with any of these movements that we're doing today. So it's all contract and then relax. So contract and relax. Now, I guess the relaxation in this point is when we switch over to the other side, or when we stand up out of the exercise. So we still have 25 seconds left. You can still try to get in sync with your breath as well, for those that are doing that. So inhale, exhale. Generally, you exhale when you come out of the exercise, creating some abdominal pressure, especially for those that are lifting heavier weights and whatnot. You want to have a level of activity, especially if you're doing like a compound movement where you're going from lower half to the upper half of your body. Your core is is definitely of importance. So be mindful of that all the time. Okay, and you can be done that one. So that was pretty much your whole kind of lower half to a degree, at least, crude, raw, universal aspect of the lower leg. So front portion, glutes, I'm sure a lot would feel that in the hamstrings and the adductors. So, and that wasn't even that long of a warm up. And you're constantly, to get more out of it, contracting and relaxing, it actually generates heat. So you're actually climbing the musculature for exercise in itself. So another one, so now let's transition into some of your upper body stuff. So I want to focus on wrist and bicep and this internal rotation. And I know that's something of lacking that I've seen within the functional movement screening room. So I just want to focus on that. So what you can do is you're going to have your wrist facing forward on this. And so wrist facing forward. You're going to squeeze your shoulders back, and then you're going to stack your knees on top of the ankles, and you're in this tabletop position. So try not to shrug. You're lifting your belly button. You're being lifted. Your shoulders being squeezed back. And then with this, you're trying, for those that may have issues in this, you don't have to bring the hips up, but maybe you can walk the hands back a little bit more, trying to drive your palm down towards the ground. So it should be flat if you can. If not, that's okay. Just go into what you feel. But on this, as we're raising the hips, you can then try to do a circle with the shoulders. So you're trying to go one direction, stop, then the other direction, stop. You can also squeeze the shoulders back, continue doing that, and then rock your hips back and forth on that. You can then try to windshield wipe your legs from left to right as well. So you might get some pull in the, your cavity, your ribcage area. And the other thing, and I'm also going to start the timer right now, so we're going to start in a minute. And the other thing you can do is think about sliding your heels toward your butt and your hands down toward your butt. So you're contracting. So I'm not moving, but I'm contracting and relaxing. You can't see it, but I'm contracting and relaxing. So I feel my hamstrings engage. I feel my biceps and my wrists engage a little bit more, and contracting with that. And then I'm going to cycle through those movements again. So maybe a circular motion one direction, the other, windshield wipe the knees. If it's too much, you always drop your hips down, shake it out, get back into it. But contracting and relaxing. Maybe shift to the left and the right with your shoulders instead of doing the circles. So there's variety within that. And like I mentioned, if it's too much, especially if it's too much in the wrist, you always rotate your wrist outward too. So I know you probably feel a little bit your forearms, your biceps, your shoulders. Very good. So Kaylee, what did you think about that one? You can be done. That was a minute.
Yeah.
Good. So you're feeling that in the shoulders. So good. So another one that was wrist. Once again, it's internal rotation, so allowing for greater range of motion to reach behind your back. I know a lot of us are limited in doing, this kind of figure, but that should actually help. And I know I'm always trying to use minimal amount of equipment. I have a foam roller in front of me. Let's see if I can show you guys something else. So for those that are, let's just say, working with weight, you can also grab, something that's a little higher, or so if you have your weight here, you can have it in an upright position. Or if you had a foam roller next to you, I think a lot of you guys may have foam rollers. I want to try to get into like a child's pose. So you bring your toes to touch, knees out wide, and we're going to try to work on your lats and your overhead extensibility. So let's just say if I had a foam roller, I'm just grabbing the top of my foam roller, sitting the hips back, and then trying to drive down. Keeping your core engaged, not letting your arch of the back happen. Or if you had a dumbbell, you can have, one hand on top of the other. So you can just do one. Yeah. So if you actually have one hand on top of the other on one dumbbell, you can lock up those elbows, and then you're trying to just drive your armpits down towards the ground. So you're squeezing your stomach, squeezing your core. Try not to let it be relaxed. You're activating those lats, and you're opening those armpits. So maybe contract as hard as you can for 3, 2, 1, and you push through the weight, you get back up, and then you're gonna go back into it. Yep, you just come back and forth. And if anything, you're trying to keep your body rigid so you maintain a straight line, but you're trying to break your body out of that. Does that make sense? So you're contracting and then pushing, and then, yep, and you're going back and forth. If you can, try to sit your hips a little lower if possible, to get more out of that. Or if that's uncomfortable, you can also get into the, have your hips stacked on top of the knees. Anything that will raise you a little bit more, putting more stress onto the lat. And you're coming in and out, pushing through the arms, maybe even changing the direction of what hand on top of that weight. If you have a single weight, back and forth. So work on those lats. Even rotating or kind of shifting your arms up to one side can get you more of a lat stretch. But once again, we're trying to focus on improving that overhead range of motion. Very good. And let's just try one more, and then we can move on to our exercise. So, Kaylee, how was that one feeling? Felt okay on that one? Felt good?
Yeah, that felt really good.
All right, so now we're going to go into that thoracic region again, trying to improve that, just the tissues in between the shoulder blades. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this cross, underneath the leg, grabbing for the opposite shin. Same thing for the other side here. And then I'm planting my feet, and then I'm trying to kick into my hands, so I'm trying to round out my back as much as possible. So big inhale, and then exhale. Let's see if I can pull a little bit more. Keeping my core engaged, so I'm protecting my back. And then with that, if you feel comfortable, you can try to roll back, so continuously pushing and kicking into the shin. Big inhale, exhale. See if you can try to get into like this rocking position, trying to pull your arms off. You should feel that stretch of your upper back. But when you rotate or when you roll into the ground, you're going to get a different pull of your musculature. So you might feel different aspects. So the upper portion, the mid portion.
Yeah, that feels cool.
Yeah, so big inhale, exhale, and maybe you try kicking in your hands and try rocking yourself back into that starting position again. Maybe grabbing higher onto the shins, lower on the shins. So try to experiment. See if you can try to pull at various angles of your upper torso and body, and that should actually help with those tissues extensibility. All right, and that was a minute on that. So that was just a minute, and I would consider that a full body kind of warm up. Do you feel as though you kind of touched at least the major muscle groups, at least what we're going to be focusing on? So I know that within the firefighters that we generally work with, you guys work on the larger muscle groups and have like this traditional style of training with weights and whatnot. But we're trying to, those are great. Obviously, you want to be able to, increase your resistance training, lifting heavier, but you also want functionality within that as well. So with that being said, we're going to try to tackle two of those things within this workout. So this is going to be more of a full body workout and then working towards compound moves. So doing more, just being efficient with your workout altogether. So this one, what we're going to focus on, so you'll grab your weight for those that have it. So something that's moderate, maybe potentially heavy, because our goal is again to do 60 seconds worth of work. So for this, we're going to go into a kneeling position. So we kind of already went through the warm up. So you'll start on your back knee, but I want you to have the weights in this rack position, and then you're just going to press up and then come back down. So exhale coming up, inhale coming down. But you're just going to tap the back knee, and then you're just going to go back and forth on them. So I specifically have these 35-pound weights, so I'm going to start in this rack position, squeezing the shoulder blades back, and then, trying to keep it nice and stacked, make sure my hips are straight, squared off, squeeze the stomach, squeeze the glutes, and then exhale coming up, inhale coming down, and going back and forth. So I'll start the timer now, Kaylee, and that looks good. Yep. So for those that may have a pull in the anterior aspect of the shoulder, maybe squeeze your shoulder back a little bit more so you're kind of resting to a degree on the shoulder. And then when you press up, you're thinking about driving your thumb behind your head. You're pulling your arms through. Yep. Squeezing your glutes, watch your lower back. The thing is that you want to make sure that that back leg or the back knee is directly underneath your spine. So you should be so when you come down onto the knee, if you were to rest, you have that stability. Squeezing your stomach, squeezing your glutes, drawing the belly button in. Their core is being activated the entire time, whether you feel it or not. You need to keep that break. Very good. So let's take a breather. So that was good. That was 1 minute. So now what we're going to do is you're going to grab, with your weight, maybe it's mild or light, moderate, heavy, whatever it may be. But now we're going to go into a posterior chain workout. So remember what leg you just finished on, because we're going to go to that other leg soon. So you're going to do a deadlift or a hinge. So you're squeezing, so squeeze your shoulders back, so you focus on your posture. Squeeze your stomach, squeeze your glutes, and you're trying to have the weight fall as close as you can to the front portion of your leg. Squeeze here, squeeze your glutes, keep on pushing your heels to the ground. Row, stand back up. Row, stand back up. And you're just going back and forth continuously, trying to take your bottom out, trying to feel that pull or that activation of your hamstrings through the hinge and going back and forth on that. So start the timer now. Yep. And then, yep. Good. And remember, this is like a basic physics. So biomechanically, you want to be able to sit your hips back far enough to where you lower or you lessen that lever arm, putting less stress on your lower back. So for those that are feeling this in their back, you shouldn't be. You should be engaging your core, squeezing your stomach, squeezing your bottom. Feel this in your posterior or the back side of your legs, your hamstrings and your glutes. And remember, if you actually contract your musculature a little bit harder, you can get more out of the exercise. Really focus on that neuromuscular component, really addressing this movement or think about this movement as a whole too, where you can, I guess, improve its efficiency. Good, yep. And yeah, stopping at 90 degrees is okay. So once again, it's all depending on what you're lifting, what you can manage. Very good. Nice. Nice, Kaylee. So now we can be done on that one. Did you feel that? So that's the other thing, that this may be some of your first time, you know, working with such a weight or doing these exercises, so you're not really knowing what to do, but you can always increase that. You can always change those variables. So sometimes, you know, if it's lighter, you can do multiple repetitions, so that high repetition, but you know, maybe you can do a heavier load. You can only do 7 within 1 minute, and that's still kind of building the same type of, you know, hypertrophy and strength that some of you may be looking for. So now we're gonna go to the other side of that lunge, that kind of reverse lunge to that overhead press. Inhale, coming down. Exhale, coming up, driving those thumbs back. So hopefully you remember what leg you started off on. And you're going, yep, make sure that you're in a stacked position. For those that have knee issues, you can just have a pad underneath if you need something to, you know, rest on when you get tired, but you're going back and forth. I'll start the timer now. Yep. So you're getting your quad, your glutes, your shoulders, of course, your triceps. And then, of course, you may not think of it, but your midsection, you're bracing that core, drawing your belly button in the entire time towards your spine. So that's your natural back brace. If you're not using it, you potentially run the risk of injuring your lower back. So it's all about distributing those forces about the midsection. And relax, very good. That was one. Very good. So we did the posterior chain, we did the front portion of the quad. So now we can kind of get into another pulling exercise. So that's the other thing too, I'm trying to go from push to pull. This one will go into a plank position, so a push position with a row. So what we consider a renegade row. So what you'll do is you can have both your weights in front of you, or maybe you can just have one on the ground. I like to use, I mean, for me personally, I have these hex ones. So I put my one hand on the hex. If that's not the case, you just keep your hand on the handle. But you're trying to have your feet kind of as close as possible because you're trying to work on your core stability or this rotational stability. So the closer the feet are, the harder it becomes, and the wider, the easier to a degree, but you need to watch for the rotation of your hips while doing this. So the angle is being in the push position, squeezing your stomach, squeezing your butt, and pushing nice and tall through one shoulder while squeezing your shoulder blades back. And then you can alternate, we'll alternate for this one. So you're gonna alternate the arms of which you pull so you can really work and focus on that rotational aspect of your core. So try to minimize how much your hips shift from left to right. So here we are, I'll start the timer now. So you're pushing tall through the shoulders, squeezing your stomach, squeezing the glutes, yep. And if you notice that you kind of have to shift, you know, maybe separate your feet a little bit wider, squeeze tighter, but keep on pushing tall through that shoulder because you're also working on your scapular stability or your shoulder blade stability. So pretend like you're pushing the ground away from you when you lift up that other weight, yep. Shouldn't see your shoulder blades sticking out. Everything should be nice and round of the upper torso. Push, push, push. Good. Yep. Engage the glutes. That's part of your core activation as well. That will protect your back. Try to push through the feet pretty firmly as well to maintain that stability of the lower body and the hips. Very good. I'm done. Nice. So the core activation exercise. Take it. So another one, since we're already here, we can then, so we did a little bit of the core, we're gonna go into the back side of your core. So can we go into just a Superman or a Superwoman position? So you're gonna be here, you'll start with your thumbs up, you're reaching as far as you can in front, and your back side or your legs are gonna be lifted as well. You're reaching for length. And then you're just gonna do this reverse snow angel. Squeeze your shoulders back and forth. And you're just going for an entire minute, but trying to activate your musculature in between your shoulder blades the entire time.
Are legs up or down?
Yeah, the legs are up. So the back, yeah, your legs are going to be lifted as well. So in order to get more out of the exercise, you're going to try to contract your thighs, your ankles together, and then going back and forth. So just some basic lower back core activation. So good, thumbs up, squeeze your shoulders back, and yep, you're squeezing your thighs together, the ankles together as well. So don't let the feet separate, knees separate, and just going back and forth. And remember, you're not trying to do an excessive pull with your upper torso. So you can raise your torso maybe a few inches off the ground and then just pull through the shoulder blades. So you're working on posture, 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 posture. That's good. Keep on squeezing the thighs together. Draw your belly button toward your core, reaching for the length of the room. Very good. Nice. You can be done on that one. So hopefully that activated the lower back. While doing that, you're lifting your shoulders. Definitely feel that posterior aspect of your upper body being activated. So next one, we're going to try to get into a leg exercise as well. Once again, we're doing a compound movement. So this is going to work on the lower half as well as the upper half. So once again, just for reference, I'm just lifting 35 pounds for this exercise, so 35 pounds each. What you're going to do on this is you're going to be into a rack position, or I guess like this front rack position. And then my thumbs are up to the side, but when I end, they're going to rotate so that they're pointing behind me. So an angle of this is, I'm going to have my feet about hip width distance here. And then when I press up, I'm going to be rotating back. So if that makes, yeah. So here. So good. And you're going back and forth on that. So squatting down, make sure that when you squat, your hips are shooting back, your torso is nice and upright. For those that can't squat that low, just think about a quarter and keeping your torso nice and upright. For any time you go forward, you're going to put more stress on the back. So make sure that you're in a more upright position. And then, yep, Haley, when you're ready, good. Once again, you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades back when you press up. Engage your core to your belly button the entire time. Good. Trying to keep your torso nice and upright. So the hard part about this exercise is that the weights are in front of you. So this is actually going to activate your core more so dynamically because the weight's wanting to pull you forward. You'll definitely start to feel this in the shoulders. And for those that are lifting heavier weights, maybe you'll get this in the legs as well. But everything's being activated. So once again, another compound movement. And of course, you can always go heavier And then maybe you can, you know, if you can't make the whole minute, then you can drop down to something lighter as well. But once again, it's all about time under tension. So be methodical with your movements. Try not to rush them. There's always a time and a place. But for this one, work on the slowness of the exercise. And done. Good. Challenging?
Yeah.
Good. So yeah, compound movement, your squat to overhead press as well. Okay. So other one. Let's get into a reverse. Or actually, let's do so a reverse posterior chain as well. So what you'll do is you're gonna do this. Kind of did this last week in our workout as well, where you're going to get into your deadlift position. So nice neutral back, squeezing your stomach, squeezing your glutes, pressing up, and then you're going to do like a monkey curl. So you're trying to get your wrist in as high as you can to your armpit, and you're going to hinge again, and then armpit, hinge again, armpit. For those that are lifting heavier weight, maybe a little bit of momentum will carry into lifting them up. But once again, you want to be slow and methodical to see if you can work on trying to get that weight up as high as you can. But when you're lifting, make sure to squeeze your shoulder blades back as well. So does that make sense? You're hinging to curling to your wrist underneath your armpit. So it's the, yep, good. Remember, you want the weight super close to your legs. On this one, yeah, you're going to hinge actually, and you're actually going to stand upright. Yeah, so you're pulling the basically here. So the weights are basically just following that same trajectory. And then when you stand up, yeah. Think about pulling more down from the ground, like this, Kaylee.
Okay.
So not like a curl. It is a curl, but you're not curling forward. It's like literally pulling. Your elbows are going to go back, the arm and the weights are going to fall in between your armpit. Yep, and then come down. Good. Back and forth. I know this might be a little awkward, a new one. Good. Yep. So you're trying to follow that same trajectory. Yep, looks good. Still engaging the core, drawing the belly button in. So posture, keep your neck straight. That's good. Remember, you should always feel this in the back side of the leg, not the lower back. Very good. You're done. Very good. Very good. So let's do another leg exercise. So this one's going to be this lateral shift. We kind of work our legs with this exercise, but it's just going to be that split squat. So you'll grab your weight, you're going to be in a rack position, and then you're just going to go side, and you can step in and then step with the other leg, or you can just keep your legs straddled and then just going back and forth. But when you're doing this, I guess you can think about shifting all your weight to one leg, but try to have somewhat even pressure through the feet so you can actually assist yourself on the way to the other leg, this exercise. So now I'm grabbing my weights just to reiterate. So I'm going to be in this rack position. And then I'm just going to go here, push tall, make sure that the knee is right on top of the ankle joint, and then up and over to the other side. So remember, keeping that core engaged. Good. And just going back and forth. Good. So the weights are, the cores are on top of the shoulders, like I mentioned. But if you want to make this a little bit more challenging, you can bring them in front of your torso a little bit, pulling you forward. So it's going to challenge you to keep that torso more upright. Good. So try not to hinge. Look, if you notice that you're looking down at the ground, try to be more upright. So just to preserve your back. Yep. Watch the knee on top of the ankle joint. Looks good. Yep. Yep. Okay, this got a good one. Once again, just to reiterate, knees on top of the ankle, up, knees on top of the ankle, Try not to look down. So in a sense, it's almost like a single leg squat. The other leg kind of just out to the side, assisting with this come up. Very good. And that was 1 minute. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Good. So that was this lateral shift or lunge. So now we can go into more of a kind of a core exercise as well as upper body again. We're going to do more of a pushing capacity. So what you'll do is, for those that have shoulder issues, I know a lot of firefighters have shoulder issues. This will actually help put you into a better position, especially when you don't have a bench or anything. You can just use the ground for body positioning. So what you'll do is you're going to have your arms kind of like at a 45-degree angle while, in this position here. So the weight are on top of the elbows, and my elbows aren't flared out so that my elbows are aligned with my shoulders, or too close where I'm focusing my triceps. There's somewhere in between, and I'm going to raise the legs up. If you can, if not, you can keep them bent, but you're going to keep your core engaged, push up, and then you're going to then try to do an extra push or reach with your weight. And then you're going to come down, and then back up. So the 2 movements in 1. So you're getting your chest press, your tricep, and then from here, I'm pushing nice and tall to the shoulders already, and then reaching even more so, trying to activate my core, and then going back and down, tapping my elbows onto the ground, and repeating that movement. Yep. So push up, and then reach. Good. And for those that can train their legs, that'd be a little bit more challenging. You get more flexibility in there. Good. And just find a nice tempo, see if you can get a nice fluid motion through this entire thing, going back and forth. Yep. And remember, your arms might be at a 45-degree angle. So just to reiterate what that is, make sure that your elbows aren't completely flared out. They're kind of down by your side. And you're rotating your thumbs. Your thumbs shouldn't be pointing towards each other. Should be kind of rotated up. Very good. Nice. And down on that one. Very good. How was that, Kaylee?
Good.
Yeah. Good. Okay, good. So that was the pushing one for the core. We can go into this rotational aspect again while standing up. So you can start with the weight in front of you, like this, and you're straddling, small straddle, so my hips are still, I guess, or my feet are hip width apart. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop one leg back, placing the forearm onto the thigh here, squeezing the stomach, squeezing the glute, and then rowing. Stand back up, and I'm going to go to the other side. And I'm just, with this one, you might need a moderate to heavier weight, trying to get the back implemented there, but engage, you have to rotate the torso. You're trying to keep everything square with the ground. Lift, stand up, switch, and repeat. Good. So yeah, kettlebell, dumbbell. Good. And you want to quickly, if anything, this is going to reinforce that quick activation of the core. So stabilization, bracing. You have to brace before you can lift. So squeeze your shoulder blade back. Feel that resistance in whatever it is you're lifting before you actually just jerk it up. That's sometimes injuries come about when there's a sudden jerk or this elastic component that is not, I guess, getting all of the resistance initially. So add resistance into what you're lifting and then pull. Draw your belly button in, good. Try to keep everything nice and straight. Your best idea of what form is or posture. Nice form, Kaylee. Drawing the belly button in, going back and forth for 3, 2, 1. Good, and done. All right, looks really good. And of course, you can always stay in the same position. If that was too easy, you can stay on one side. Always, you can also just go faster, or maybe you can lift heavier weights, but there's variables that can be changed in order to get you working out. So next, let's go into another pushing one. So can we get into a lunge position? This is going to be more of a dynamic stability one. So you're going to try to, and more advanced, you're going to do like a row to a single leg step. It's going to be opposite arm and opposite leg out. And then you're going to press up overhead, stand up, bring the weight back down, and you're going to do like this kind of pull again, do a curl to a reverse lunge. So it's going to be opposite hand, opposite leg, press up, and then stand up, and then you're going to curl it down, and then you're just repeating. So I'm going to set reverse lunge, do a curl, press up overhead, stand up, curl back down. Press up. Does that make sense? Yep, good. Good, Kaylee. Press up. Curl it down. Yep, and now you're just going to step with the other foot. I'll continue to go through this one. Yep. So another compound movement. You definitely get the shoulders involved. 4 legs. Curl down. Good. Stick your hips out when pulling that weight up as well. So be conscious of your back positioning. When you're dropping, think about like a deadlift down, a deadlift up. Good. You're also working on your shoulder stability. So make sure that when you press up, you're constantly pushing up all the way up. Reach as high as you can each time. And remember, when you come down or come up out of that hinge, you're protecting your back. Very good. You can finish on whatever repetition you're at. So very good. Nice, Kaylee. So I know time is of the essence. So this workout so far has only been 48 minutes. So kind of fairly short. Like I said, you can always change the variables. So if it was too easy, you can always make, move faster, heavier weights, whatever it may be. But we're going to end on some core stuff because that is some of the most important stuff that a lot of people neglect and don't really make time for. So we're going to go into an activated plank position. What you're going to do is you're going to start with your arms parallel with each other, but you also want to think about rotating about the elbows. So you're trying to bring the elbows as close as you can, but the fist far away as possible while in your plank position. So that's what I'm thinking about first. So my shoulders are directly on top of the elbow joint. I'm pushing nice and tall. So I'm squeezing my stomach, squeezing my glutes, trying to rotate the hands out, but you can't see it, but I'm trying to slide my elbow down towards the ground at the same time. So pushing out, rotating out, and then trying to slide, holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then kind of relax. And then contracting to the floor again and relax while doing that. So we'll end on this exercise for 1 minute. So here it is. Ready, set, and go. So you're trying to slide those elbows down toward your feet, contract as hard as you can. If you want more of that exercise. And then after the 5, then you kind of relax, but still staying up in the upright position. Remember, just to reiterate, you're trying to rotate about the elbows, rotate the hands out, elbows as close as you can, slide them down towards the feet. Contract, yep. So you're kind of counting that on your own. 3 to 5 seconds, and then relax. Or if you can manage the entire minute, you can do that as well, but you'll notice that it's going to get pretty challenging. I like this one because it's a little bit more fun than the traditional plank. You're not just sitting there, you get something else to think about. And done. Very good. All right. Well, that's what we have, 50 minutes. Short, sweet, Heavy hitting, so it's also all encompassing. So if you are looking for a quick workout, I would say that this would be great for maintaining the musculature or working towards it for those that don't do this type of training already. Like I mentioned multiple times, you can change the variables. So the speed in which you do it, the weight in which you lift. So it kind of helps to have weights that are next to you. So for those that are interested in this workout, I would say repeat it, maybe become accustomed to it and the type of movement. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for watching, viewing. But also, if you have questions or concerns at all, you can always reach out to Fire Wellness. You can set up personal training sessions, or for those that may have physical ailments. I know that we have a athletic trainer that's in the process of building his schedule as well. So if you guys have anything at all that needs myofascial release work or massaging type stuff or exercises, we are your people. So and that pertains to education for nutrition and other things as well. So thanks. I'll see you guys soon.